Live from the glorious city of Melbourne
and live from the USA,
your superstar hosts, Michael Sopel.
I'm going to say we play and win a final.
Sam Manhannett.
The top four.
Like it.
Carlton.
There it is. There it is. I was waiting for it.
This is In the Ballpark.
Hello and welcome to In the Ballpark. It's Sam Manhannett back again and Michael Sopel. Michael, of course, joining us from San Diego across the other side of the world. And myself, Sam Manhannett, I'm here live on the road, stopped over in Horsham, just about halfway to Adelaide for the first time I'm visiting Gather Round. So it's been exciting seeing the flags and the scarves for all the country towns along the way through to Adelaide. It is already kicked off with a massive win to the Cats last night at Adelaide Oval, but it's just going to be a thrilling weekend for everyone travelling across. They're saying it's grown in numbers, and this will be the biggest numbers through Adelaide Airport on the calendar year. So, and the amount of people coming across from Victoria is apparently massive, driving across. So it's just going to be an exciting weekend with some games, interesting fixtures the way it's turned out. We've got an exciting game to review from last night and a rest of round 5 preview, 5 rounds in. How's your week been, Michael?
Oh, Sammy boy, the talk of the town is Adelaide, South Australia. How good. The weather is going to be hot. Yes. I've seen in the forecast. I cannot believe
it, yeah. Just as it was getting cold, it's kind of warmed up again, and we've got a perfect, I think it's 31-degree Saturday. And just the games down the Barossa, it's going to be absolutely wonderful. So it's a nice little summer retreat, I guess, for footy fans before we get into the deep, dark depths of winter. But we've got some stories to get through straight off the bat. And speaking of Gather Round, I won Lockie Fogarty from last night. Now, I didn't see it on his arm last night, but he has got a Gather Round theme tattoo, if you've heard about this.
Ooh.
So Cooper's Brewing, the big beer from South Australia. He had a tattoo of a beer temporarily on his arm, which is interesting, getting along, because we know some players have got some strange tattoos. Coming to think of it, of course, what's his name from the Bulldogs? Covered in Simpsons
not Libba.
Liberatore.
Yes, the Simpsons ones.
Yes, so there's been some players over the years with some interesting tattoos, but we'll keep an eye out for the famous beer. I'll be having a few Coopers this weekend, that's for sure.
Just yes. On his tattoo, because I've just had a look at it. One of his goal celebrations, Darcy Fogarty, the dead
up there. Sorry.
Well, they're both forwards, but this forward dead eye from outside 50. Anyway, Darcy Fogarty, one of his goal celebrations was actually like the Jeremy Cameron on grand final day opening a can. So I don't know if you saw that, but I think he probably got the full sponsorship deal. So have to get the tattoo, have to do a beer celebration. Had they won, who knows? He may have even done a shoey, Sammy.
Right. Okay. In other news around the footy world, AFL 26 has been announced to come out in May 8, as people call it Mate Day.
Oh,
May 8, yeah.
Love it.
Right. Interesting, that one. I was pretty happy with the game that come out, AFL 23. They've improved on it a bit. It's been, I think, the best variation of the video game so far, and they've got a good base to build on. So I'm surprised they've announced this pretty quickly, and I'll be looking out this weekend because usually they might have a sneak preview or something down at the Footy Festival. So I'll keep my eye out for that. So that's pretty exciting for gaming fans around that.
And Sammy, how about Paddy Cripps on the front cover as well? Ooh-ah.
Yeah,
he's looking good.
Yeah. A good spot for him to be the front cover. It's very good.
I think so.
And you'll probably have to get some. Maybe we can get some content of you showing some Americans the video game, get them playing the video game and their reactions.
Mate, we just started watching Last of Us. I know there are multiple seasons in, but that's of course a TV show based on a video game. And God, wouldn't it be good if they made an AFL 26 movie and they shot it here in Hollywood and tried to recreate the MCG with a little bit of CGI. So, man, who knows? Who knows where it could go?
Hollywood's a strange place.
They're listening.
Speaking of Hollywood and guns, well, that's a wild throw to the guns. The guns of the MCG. Did you hear about that? I mean, it's probably laughable. It probably wouldn't be news in America, guns being through a stadium. But Carlton, Collingwood last week, there were 2 people that were arrested for having a revolver in the MCG, if you can believe that.
Loaded?
I'm not sure if it was loaded.
It's still scary, though, regardless.
Loaded. No,
it was loaded. Oh, scary.
And then, so what had happened is the AI technology picked it up as they came in, but it was human error. So the people waving them through and monitoring that stuff didn't check them thoroughly and let them through. But it was only because they were causing a ruckus and the police decided to search them that they found the guns. So, yeah, interesting.
Wow.
Not really it's a strange occurrence here, but maybe not so strange in the USA.
Oh, they've got a lot of security that you've got to get through to, like, even the most basic baseball game I went to, Sam, the other day, you had to, like, put all of your stuff into like a little bowl, get it through like an airport, exactly like an airport, and then you know the full wave down. But you actually have to walk through one of those full machines, like at an airport. So I think at a lot of stadiums in Australia, just for people not from Australia listening, it's just literally sometimes you can just walk through and you don't even get scanned, but yeah, typically it's just a little bit of a wave of the wand and that is it. And if you've got a backpack, it's kind of an honesty policy about opening that up. So maybe they have to get a little bit tighter now given this circumstance. But yeah,
well, they have.
It's pretty relaxed.
And there's been a crowd complaint because interesting to see. I haven't seen what the crowds were like getting into Adelaide Oval last night, but I think there is worry that there's going to be a long time getting into the ground because they're just stepping it up. But I mean, if they're doing their job properly, it's hard to not be too annoyed at that because doing what's right to protect the community and everyone around her. You don't want to be, but it is a bit of a wake up call for the MCG and the AFL.
Definitely. Wow.
Bloody Collingwood fans, you can't trust them.
Were the ankle bracelets not buzzing when that?
More bullets than teeth, eh?
And brain cells.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Collingwood fans.
Sorry, guys.
And the other big story this week that's been a lot of talk is Christian Petracca coming across, and of course Melbourne having a tough time at the moment. Him splitting the dummy at the end of the game, throwing the mouth guard and showing a bit of frustration. There's a lot of noise that maybe he shouldn't be showing that sort of emotion like that. And then there's other stories and opinions that he should be showing it, and it's good. In my opinion, I think I'd rather see that than the smiles and high fives after a game, after a brutal loss. I know players, emote in different ways, but I've never liked that after a tough loss, especially what Melbourne are going through at the moment. At least by that, he cares and he's passionate and he's competitive and that it means a lot. I think I like it. I think it was just unfortunate for him. The camera was on him at the time because I'm sure there's a lot of players that do this all the time, but it's just missed in the heat of the moment at the end. But what are your overall thoughts on that?
When you compare it to what happened with, I think it was Mac Andrew and Riley Thilthorpe, you see that where guys are almost reluctant to shake each other's hands and there's still, a lot of emotions boiling over after the siren. I think it shows the two contrasts. Like when that siren goes, it's very hard to just flick a switch and just be calm and go and shake someone's hand. There were so many times where I was like, kind of like Ryan Crowley and Matty Scarlett back in the day, like they're shaking hands, or I think it might have been Stephen Johnson, but they're also like punching each other in the chest. Yeah. Like it's kind of like a backhanded, thank you very much. And I think with Christian, it was just one of those situations. The siren went, he'd given it his all. He's probably so frustrated. He's a leader on the field. He's organising the troops, and he may have not been getting heard or getting the feedback that he deserved. And he's a proud guy. So I personally, like you, I love it. But it is a bit unfortunate that it has now added to the talking point of just all the cracks appearing at Melbourne, and certainly a win can paper over those cracks. But it's certainly it's a tough time for them right now.
Yeah, no, I definitely do like it, because as a fan, a suffering fan, you want to know that the players are actually feeling what you're feeling.
They care for the jumper,
Yeah. I think that's a big thing with fans, because, the complaint is, and I've heard this a lot of times, Carlton, that the players don't care, they don't show enough passion to be wearing the jumper and that kind of thing. But
right.
But,
and Sammy, to bring it back to American sport, a lot of people criticised Travis Kelce a few years ago for like shoving Andy Reid, the head coach, at halftime where things weren't going well, but it actually sparked them in the second half to do better and for Kelce to get more looks in particular plays. So who knows? Sometimes like a provocative thing like that can actually gain the attention of the rest of the group, and it can actually motivate a response. Yeah. So with those kind of situations, sometimes it's good that a certain player shows that emotional response and it does get highlighted in the media, because then change comes from it.
That's right. Because, I mean, it's funny on the other hand, I don't know if I just mentioned, but the way Christian Petracca in contrast, the other midfielder. It's my brain.
Clayton Oliver?
Clayton Oliver. So he was smiling and not really. I know some people kind of bury it, but I think maybe if you're a teammate, like you said, and you see that and you go, maybe I should have, put an extra bit of effort in or run my gut off like he did, So, interesting. But
interesting, yeah.
And some positive news. Harry Mackay is back in for the Blues, and he put a special podcast out yesterday going through some of his mental health battles over the last couple of months. And I think it was really good and strong of him to do that. And he detailed through what the past couple of months have been like for him. And he said that he had to put his hand up and take some time away. And now he's refreshed and he's back and ready to go, which is very exciting and very happy to see that from him.
That's brilliant. And I love how transparent players are, just from a wider perspective across global sport. Players having their own podcasts and outlets. Like, people typically think, is it a little bit too oversaturated? I think it's great. If you're a fan of that club and you're an audience member and you want to know more about these players and the psychology and all the hard work that goes into it, you might not boo the guy when he's, having yips in front of goal, because you actually know what he's going through. So I think it's great for fan psychology. I also think it's great for the players because they can talk about it. They've got an outlet and they don't go silent, and there's been so many times where players have taken mental health leave over probably the last 5 years. And, sometimes you don't get an answer to that because everyone's going through their own battles. But I think it's great that he's put up his hand and he's been really transparent with that. I just hope for Harry that, he's not rushing himself back. That's the big thing. Hopefully he's in a good place, ready to go. And regardless of what he does on the weekend, he feels like he's in a good place to play footy with his mates.
Yep. Well, I think that's number one. Footy's such a mental game, and if you're not in the right headspace, that's exactly it. You shouldn't push yourself. And I think you're 100% on the money with other players taking this in. I think AFL players, especially with the pressure that's on them and that kind of thing, they're kind of the old-fashioned mindset is to just kind of soldier on and push through it, but it can do a worse effect. It really can. So very good news, exciting to see.
Love it.
Good option for, other players that do come across this and go, hey, I'm not the only one that can, having to be battling with this. All right,
Well
round
said. 5,
gather round, exciting, kicked off Adelaide Oval on Thursday night. High scores. It reminds me of the early noughties with these high-scoring game. A classic shootout, 15-10, 100, the Adelaide Crows to the Geelong Cats, 18-11, 119. 3-goal win in the end for the Cats. Look, the Crows, for me, just ran out of steam. They were really promising first half. I think at one stage they were out to about a 5-goal lead. And the Cats just kept clawing back the whole game, stayed with them, really put the pressure on and really just ran over the top of it in the end. The legs for Adelaide just kind of disappeared late in the last quarter. And I think the game really slowed down overall in the second half after a really fiery first half, classic end-to-end footy. But the Cats just show they've got the quality. They've been in games where they can run out after a tough game like that. Exciting to see only a positive, high-scoring, dangerous Crows side in front of goal and some of the midfield kind of transitions that they showed. But Geelong too strong, Michael.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, let's start with Geelong. I mean, wow, someone who turned back the clock was Paddy Dangerfield. And, there's been a few comments around, is this like the Lee Matthews coming of age for Paddy Dangerfield as a forward? And, I think we always were a little bit hesitant to say, with his kicking, is he a really good set shot? But it's not just what he provides as a goal kicker primarily. It's the structure that he provides up forward. It's the pressure. It's just that dogged hungriness to get the ball and to do things. And he's got such good goal sense, and he typically, passes it off to other players, brings other guys into the game, and he's such a durable threat in that forward line. And, given his age, he probably isn't going to play every single week, but if he is, then, you rest him in the forward line and he's going to be a real potent target. And, he was the real fire starter for them, I thought, in the forward half. And, then players like Jeremy Cameron, who we just know are just freakish athletes and also incredible goal sense players, they just came into the game and came into their own. And the Cats looked really dangerous up forward, particularly in the second half when those guys got going. So I think it was 4 goals for Paddy Dangerfield. He had a huge night, and Jezza Cameron kicked plenty too. So look, that kind of forward line's looking really good now. And, the Bailey Smith had another big game, and good to have him back, because he was out there with a little injury and he's just continued from where he's left off in that first round. Yep. So look, very good commanding win by the Cats. But you look at the Crows, they're still building, and I still look at their back line and they do look a tad vulnerable, probably just inexperienced players down there, but they'll get better. They'll learn from this and they'll definitely be better in the long run, I think.
Yeah, made some probably bad decisions chipping around. I think they tried to, especially at the end of the third quarter, they were trying to play out the game like it was the end of the game. Start chipping around, and then that's when if you're a team coming back into the game, when you start seeing the opposition doing that, I feel like you even get a bit of a boost from that.
Right, it's the psychology.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Dangerfield, 4 goals, 1. He really stood up when the times were tough during the game, and really when the game was in the balance. Jeremy Cameron, same sort of thing. I think he had a quiet start to the game, but then really turned it on towards the end. Mr. Beerman, Darcy Fogarty, 4 goals, 1, leading for the Crows. Ben Keezer, 3 goals
has
for him.
been good this season, hasn't he? Wow.
Brad Close with 2 goals, really scored well on Supercoach. Bailey Smith, 1 goal and 35, leaving the pack for disposals. Max Holmes, 32.
Wow.
I think it was Max Holmes that was leading the Supercoach. Sorry, I mixed them up. Crouch, 28. Rankin, 25 with 2 goals. There was a bit of an injury cloud of him before the game.
There was. There certainly wasn't a cloud over his singing, though. He was brilliant on the acoustics.
I didn't see that.
He's a star, isn't he? Wow.
So, yes, the inaugural kickoff launch of Gather Round. Bit of a light show before the game, which was really, really cool to see. They had projections on the field. So I hope they do more of that across the weekend. That was very cool to watch. But Friday night, we kick off tonight. Collingwood and the Sydney Swans. A couple of changes here for Collingwood. Lachlan Sullivan comes in. Edward Allen, Will Hoskin-Elliott out. Dan Houston with the suspension, of course. Jordan De Goey injured, and Lockie Schultz is injured as well. No changes for the Swans. Interesting one. Now, we know that these kind of neutral venues, it really is a mixed bag. I can't remember some of these teams' record at Gather Round, but an interesting one for Friday night. Who were you kind of leaning more towards in this one?
Gee, it's a tough one, Sammy. I've liked the form of both teams recently, to be honest. You know, I think there was a little bit of some question marks over the Swans early, but, you know, you think about who they've played and, you know, Hawthorn and Brisbane are still undefeated and are playing really good football. And, you know, that win away from home, you know, in the West was a huge statement win. And I think now they're really starting to roll. So definitely no excuses for Sydney in this game. And, you know, as for the Pies, I mean, you know, we know how good they are at the MCG, and they've clearly proven that this season. But, you know, let's see them on the road. You know, let's see them how they play in this game. I think they fielded one of the oldest teams in AFL history.
I forgot to mention that last week, and I just want to smooth over that game. I leave that game in the past because that was brutal.
Oh, boy.
Look, Swans for me, I think, again, it's going to be an interesting season for them under their new helm. With Dean Cox and some of the, you know, transitional changes that's going to happen for them over the season. I know they've had some horror grand finals in the last couple of years, and shocking. I'm sure they want to get back to it. Collingwood for me, I know they're probably doing all right for fielding kind of the squad that you're saying, but they're not done enough for me yet. I think they need to kind of prove more, and this is a big test for them. But I've taken the Swans in this one. Who are you tipping?
Yeah, you know, I'm going to tip the Swans as well, just because I think Dan Houston, when he came into the side, he was doing a lot with the ball, giving them plenty of looks going inside forward 50, and I think he is a really underrated big loss for them. And yeah, I mean, you know, Scott Pendlebury plays full game time last week. You know, does he get less game time this week? Are they managing him? Be fascinating to see what they do on that front. But yeah, Lockie Schultz as well. He had a really good game last week. So, you know, the loss of him, yeah, that's a tough one as well. He's another good underrated player. So I'm going to tip the Swans in this one by 2 goals, Sam, but could easily see the Pies winning this one. They're going to bring a lot of fans. You know that for a fact, right?
Yes, well, that's why they put it on the Friday night, because there's a bit of interesting schedule. A lot of people are saying the Saturday games should not be at Adelaide Oval and all of that, but you've got to plan this out probably furthest out other than any other round because it's so early on. So it's hard to tell. Yeah, Sydney for me. We move on to Saturday afternoon, and it kicks off at the Barossa Park in the Barossa Valley, right amongst the vineyards. Literally, when they zoom out and take a wide shot of the field, you can grab a grape off the vine, pretty much. Doesn't that? There's not many times that you would probably rather be in Adelaide than San Diego, Michael, but I bet you it's this round.
It is. I mean, look, the Temecula Valley is bloody beautiful, but to know that football is playing near a vineyard, Sammy boy,
I'm not a
good
big
luck
wine
remembering
guy.
the whole game.
I'm not a big wine guy, so but
you will be at the end of the week.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of drinks.
Those teeth better be red, Savvy boy.
So, yeah, no, they've done really well. The mayor was really excited. I've seen him on AFL 360 early in the week. I reckon it's really cool, these boutique grounds that they're really putting money into to play an AFL-level game out. I think it's really unique. I know we see it during some of the community round, but when they do it pre-season, but they don't really put as much money in as, you know, a season game for points, and it makes things really interesting. And to bring a big footy crowd for points in an area like that, I think it's such a great idea, and it's really cool. And North Melbourne and the Gold Coast Suns are set to kick this one off there. Will it be an early trip to the bottom of a big wine glass for North Melbourne fans? Probably a red-hot Suns in probably the most insane form that they've probably been in for
history.
I don't know how long. They look really sharp. Going to be playing in a pink salmon-coloured jumper that we talked about a few weeks ago. All right, couple of changes here. So Finn O'Sullivan, Zane Dersma and Zach Fisher comes in for North Melbourne. Bailey Scott omitted, Mark Whitlock omitted, and Robert Hanson Jr. omitted. One change for the Suns. Nick Holman comes in and Connor Budrick is out injured. Now, I would say North Melbourne really, really disappointed. We tried to pump them up against the Swans last week, but they were really disappointing after the game against Melbourne. I don't know if they just got a bit too cocky after that one little thing, and there was too many cracks in the game. But really dreadful performance from them, I thought.
Did we both tip them? You were more confident. You have the Swannies.
Yeah, I wasn't brave enough to tip North, but
Sammy, a lot of people egg on their face. We thought, wow, right for the picking. North, did not show up. Very disappointing, Sam. And you just wonder if, those old habits for North are still lingering there. We see that big win against Melbourne and you think, oh my gosh, they've turned a page. I wasn't as quick to jump into that. It takes a long time. They've still got a very young list. There's no doubt there's some very green shoots there and there's some good talent on the list. But, and obviously, 3 pillars in each side of the ground and, that bring premiership experience, it doesn't happen overnight. So, for me, it's pretty easy in this one. I think the Gold Coast have clearly shown that they're a different side this year. Probably not since the Gary Ablett Jr. era, Sammy Boy, where they were just pushing on finals before their second half of the season downfall. They're looking really good, and I like the jumper too. Bit of black caviar about it. It's very nice. So
I don't know. Yes, you're right.
I don't know I don't know why they're going pink, but I guess, at a vineyard, you're going to have some charcuterie boards and maybe a bit of caviar. So amen to that.
So 12:35, an early one, could be a really long day for North Melbourne fans. My friend Josh, who's coming along on this trip for us, he's heading out on the bus to Barossa. So
God bless him.
Interesting. But on the other hand, as much as I give him a bit of crap that way, at 1:20 p.m. at Adelaide Oval, it's Carlton's turn against the West Coast Eagles. Pressures on them. Changes for the Blues. Harry Mackay back in, as mentioned earlier. Matthew Cottrell. Matthew Carroll gets his long-awaited debut. Corey Durden out. Lewis Young. Lachlan Cowan with an injury. Ashton Moyer omitted and Cooper Lord omitted as well. West Coast Eagles. Harry Edwards. Jake Waterman. Liam Ryan. Jake Hutchinson out. Tyler Brockman. Tim Kelly. Noah Long and Tom Cole. All right. So, Pell, West Coast.
Well, first of all, Tim Kelly getting... Yeah, right.
Both teams without a win, just to start off. But Tim Kelly,
that's a really 0-4 for both teams, which is rough. But at the same time, gosh, Tim Kelly getting dropped for this one. This is a real big statement, and probably looks more at that trade at the time where the West Coast Eagles, probably around 2019, thought that they were still in the window with that list and just didn't show up. And obviously the COVID years, they were probably one of the worst performing sides in that. We're not here to give you a history lesson, but their history has been grim of recent times. So dropping him, experience, probably a player they needed for a game like this against a vulnerable Blues, let's be real. But yeah, that's a big statement by McWalter. But at the same time, some very handy ins there. Liam Ryan, we know how dangerous he is. But look, for the Blues, it's simple as this. They just got to win this game. Doesn't have to be pretty, Sammy Boy, but just has to be a win. And look, you get the West Coast Eagles at a very good time because they have been in putrid form the last couple of weeks. So I think it's as simple as that. But I mean, you don't want to lean into what it means if they do lose on the blue side of the ledger. But Sammy, I'm fascinated to hear your thoughts as a fan going into this one and the nerves that you might hold.
Well, some part of me is going, why am I going all this way to Adelaide on this trip for this game after what I've seen so far of the year? But we've got a good record against West Coast.
You do.
And I just think, and I was saying this earlier today, I feel sometimes with a bit of pressure on us and a bad start, we often kind of seem to turn things, and we use that as kind of fuel. As weird as it is, we've kind of been, our club for the last 20 years has been back against the wall. But to use that as a bit of momentum and push, like, because if you're a fan of a club that's, one of the top big clubs in Melbourne, it's plastered everywhere. It's inescapable. If your club's doing well, not doing well, sorry, you'll know about it. And I am more positive. I think we will come out of the gates here. I probably won't return to Melbourne if we don't get out of this one. But I'm confident that we can come out of the gates and show us what's possible, because like we've seen, there is people are quick to criticise and jump on the coach, right, and ask for his head already. But I really think there is a lot of talent there. I've said this before. The whole 2023 season, when we had that horrible start, and for those who listened back in the sports desk days, we came out of nowhere, and I knew we had it in it. And this is the same thing. There is something there, and this is where we start the season.
Agreed. And for all those people out there saying sack Voss, I mean, just think about what he has actually been able to do that other coaches haven't, in the sense of getting Carlton into it. I mean, he got Carlton to a prelim and turn that season around where it was looking really dire. And this is almost a similar situation. I think there's enough there to work with. You just got to obviously be a little bit more actively engaged in those second halves. And I mean, if you have a really strong first half against West Coast, even if you do have a poor second half, I don't think they're going to catch you. So, you can definitely take confidence out of those first halves.
Quote me on this.
Yep.
Sorry. Quote me on this. King Charles will be back. So next week, King Charles will be back back with the crown on.
Oh, yeah, love it.
All right, okay, 4:15 Norwood Oval, so just 5 kilometres from Adelaide Oval down the road. Jason Johannesson comes in for the Western Bulldogs.
Wow. Yeah, good matchup. Good matchup. Yeah. Oh, look, the Dogs were valiant again in that game against the Dockers. Sam Darcy. I mean, I think we've been glazing on him all week, and there's reason why. I mean, 5 goals against a really good defence in Fremantle, and yeah, his development, especially as a big key forward, is just been exceptional. So, wow, that's the scary part. And they don't even have Jamara there at the moment. So imagine when if that forward line has all of those components, they're going to be a serious, scary prospect. But look, the Dogs, despite still missing some personnel, they've been impressive, and I think they're going to put it right up to the Lions in this game, Sammy. And as for the Lions, gosh, they haven't put too many steps wrong, even though Richmond were very good, very competitive against them last week at the G. But look, I think the Lions, Sammy, what are you thinking? Lions just. I hope this is the game of the round. I think there's a real underrated sense about this one. I don't know, Sammy boy. I don't know. I remember last time we played Melbourne in this time slot, I think it was an early afternoon game, and then they used Adelaide Oval. They may have done a quick switch over, and then it was the Saturday night game. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it could have been the Power and the Dogs. So fascinating why they've put this on Saturday night. I think they said 7 out of 9 games as we're recording this were sold out. So I think this is the one that wasn't quite there. And there's another one in there. I can't remember which one it was. But look, This was a bit of an upset at the time when the Dons did play the Ds, and there was some cool goals in there. There was some funny antics, but yeah, I don't know. Both teams haven't really proven themselves this season, particularly the Demons. So yeah, a lot of pressure on them. For the Dons, you know, they needed that win before the bye. That was really important to get that win, albeit against a very out of form Port Adelaide, which we'll talk about in a moment. But look, I think in this game, the pressure's really on the Ds, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got a win. So I am going to tip them just in this one, the Ds, just because I still need to see more from the Dons. But, you know, they match up pretty well, these two teams. So it'll be an interesting clash, Sammy.
So Xavier Lindsay comes in for Melbourne, Daniel Turner out, Archie Perkins and Will Setterfield comes in for Essendon, Jai Caldwell and Thomas Edwards. I think Melbourne are just going to come out and win this. Sorry, Michael.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Sam. More pressure on the D's, there's no doubt. But good to see Will Setterfield getting a game, and he'll be a presence in and under and around the ball to contest with those pretty big bodied D's midfielders. So yeah, be fascinating to see obviously how both teams come into this game, and obviously much nicer conditions compared to the last time they played. So yeah. Hopefully they'll get it full, Sammy, and there'll be a bit of action on the hill.
Sunday, Richmond and the Fremantle Dockers at Barossa Park, back at the Winery. A juicy game for the Dockers, though. They can sink their teeth into this one. They've been really good. They've kind of bounced back a bit for that kind of slow start, but you can start to see the kind of movements happen and some of players really starting to gel together, especially some of their recruits in the off-season. A couple of changes here. Morris Rioli, Jonty Fowl, and Hugo Ralsmith, Samson Ryan and Campbell Gray comes in for Richmond. Out Sam Lawler, Harry Armstrong. Fremantle, Hayden Young, Sam Swikowski, Sean Darcy, Liam Reedy, Oscar McDonald, James Aish. Out Corey Wagner, Nathan O'Driscoll and Luke Jackson.
Wow, those ins for the Dockers though, that's the big talking point. Yes, they lose Luke Jackson, but Sean Darcy finally back in for them. It's interesting. We haven't had too many looks of them both playing in the same side, and when they have played in the same side, there's been a little bit of conjecture over whether it works or not. But I seem to think Sean Darcy, it's sort of a Sean Darcy, as that primary ruckman just seems to go to work, and he's a really talented player, and he's definitely always seems to be on the radar for the Cats as well. So he's a good in. I think Tigers showed a lot at the MCG. I think they're going to do that at the G this year. I think they're going to be more competitive than say on the road. But in saying that, Fremantle's still trying to find their groove, but they're in much better form now than they were 2 weeks ago, Sam. So I'm going to tip the Dockers in this one, hopefully by a little bit, but hopefully we get a good game up there at the Barossa.
Yep, Saints and Giants from Norwood Oval. Jack Steele, Liam Henry and Hugh Boxall as announced for the team so far. Stephen Caniglio, James Leake, Harvey Thomas, Toby McMullen. Out Brent Daniels for the extended squads for the Sunday game. Who would have thought we'd be talking about Saints positively in this one, especially against the Giants? Massive win. They've won how many in a row now? I think it's like 3 or 4.
Right.
Impressive win against Port last week, and then of course they had the Tigers and the Cats game I think beforehand. So doing all right.
All right. They are, Sammy boy. They're exceeding expectations, I think, particularly our expectations. We sort of had them as a real stinking slider with all of the injuries that they've had, but you can never count out a Ross Lyon coach team. He seems to just optimise the talent that he has at his disposal, and we know some of the free agent targets that they're going to be chasing, including one of your big boys as well in the off-season, Sam. So, look, they're going to come hard. The win against Geelong now really seems good, especially seeing how the Cats have bounced back too. So, yeah, they get the Giants at a pretty decent time. And I think despite the Giants filling their boots last week against the West Coast Eagles, I think the Saints are going to watch that game against Hawthorn and go, can we expose them in a few areas, and can we just, can we be lethal with our own ball movement, and can we expose them in certain areas? So I think the Saints, if they win this game, I think they're finals contenders. We can actually say it for sure, right, Sammy?
Yeah,
that's
I would
crazy.
say so. Win against the Giants. In saying that, I'm not brave enough to go near them.
I'm not either. I can't do it.
But I'd reckon it'd be another really tight, interesting, close contest at Norwood Oval, which is going to be some really exciting games
footy
there over the weekend. And then the Norwood Food and Wine Festival kicks after that. So Big things going on that way. And we've saved the best for last. Port Adelaide and Hawthorn. The grudge match against, if people remember, Sunday night, 7:20 Adelaide Oval. Got a ticket for this one as well. I think we're in the cheer squad, a few of us. So, yes, of course, the whole controversy with Ken Hinkley and Jack Ginnivan and that kind of thing.
No flying.
This has become a new modern rivalry, the Hawks and Port. It's going to be a fiery game, this one.
I cannot wait, Sammy. When was it last year? And the Hawks were going really, really well, and they came up against Port Adelaide, and Port stole that game in like the last couple of seconds, and you just thought, wow. And, you know, it didn't look like the Hawks were going to – I honestly thought they may even make it into the grand final after how well that they were playing in that second half of last season. And Port, after that stinking loss against Geelong, said, nah, we're not going to have any of that. And, of course, the Jack Ginnivan tweet and then the response from Ken Hinkley, I love it. I love the theatre. $20,000 fine. I think he's owed some of that money after how big they've blown this game up. My God.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. They use it as marketing. They use it as, oh, come look at this. They return again. It does seem a bit ironic and a bit weird. We shut, and I know we've talked about this before, the personalities of the game. We shut it down. But this what brings the hype.
I love it.
And so I can't wait to see some of the spot fires, the dishing out, the feral Port fans in the crowd. I'm going to be with the South Australian Magpie fans. Oh, God, that's the equivalent.
There'll be a few oak milks coming out of those shoes, Sammy boy.
Yeah. Wow, I think Port really need to, pressure's on them with Ken Hinkley and losing against the Saints last week with Gather Round and everyone with their eyes on South Australia, especially him. They're going to need to come out and crack, and I think they're going to know what they're going to be up against. So I really think they're going to come to the party with this one. But I think top of the ladder, the top seed Hawthorn aren't going to be upset in this one, and I think they'll take the Chockies in the end. But exciting clash, I think this will be to finish off what'll be a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, I agree, Sammy. I know a few people are tipping the upset, but I can't tip against the Hawks right now. They're in such fine form, and there'll be a little bit of fire in the belly. There'll be some celebrations. Don't worry about that. They've been very good at that in recent times. But also, I rate the aesthetic of this. Have you seen the Port Adelaide jumper? The lightning strikes are
really
back.
Good. Yep, there are a couple more this round, and they always seem to do well with some of their retro jumpers. So if they can bring back some of the team spirit.
Hell yeah.
Was that 04, that jumper?
I think it was. The old Vodafone logo as well. God, man, that was a time. I think the Saints as well are wearing a good one too, so shout out to them.
Some of the passengers in the car with me, if you've forgotten, I am recording this from halfway to Adelaide in Horsham, and the passengers are getting a bit restless. So we better get back on the road for an exciting weekend ahead, a road trip to Adelaide. There'll be content posted across our Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias. Get across it. It's going to be a fun weekend. And for all those enjoying and getting over to Adelaide, have a great time. And we'll be back next week to do it all again for In the Ballpark.
I'm so keen, Sammy boy. Enjoy that pie floater.
Will do. Thanks for listening.
For all your news, reviews and previews this AFL season,
Listen to In the Ballpark. Download the podcast now.